Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we are going to be breaking down and reviewing Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 Episode 16, otherwise known as the season finale, otherwise entitled Hey World, and if you have not seen this episode, make sure you do so before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So we have finally made it to the end of Legends of Tomorrow Season 4. This is the final show of the Arrowverse to conclude, and I want to thank you guys for all your support on the Legends of Tomorrow videos this season. Obviously, I've been a bit up and down with Legends this season. I haven't necessarily made reviews for every single episode of the show this season in the back off, but I want to thank you guys for the support nonetheless. Also, I'd like to announce that I am officially attending MCM Comic-Con in London this weekend, so if you're at the event, make sure you check around. If you see me there, make sure you come up, say hello. It'd be awesome to meet some of you guys. I'll be collaborating with awesome people like, my good friend and co-host Dan, and also Ben, the DC TV show. We're going to be doing some awesome stuff, and it's going to be a great event with some awesome people there, so make sure if you're at that event, make sure you look out for me, and I'll be looking out for all you guys too. So this episode kind of starts out with Nora being cast to hell, which we saw at the end of last episode, and she's there obviously looking for Constantine. And I actually, I've said this, I didn't say this in last week's episode, because obviously I didn't do a review for last week's episode, but all this stuff that's been taking place in Hell with Constantine has been awesome. Like, I've really loved just exploring Hell in this particular couple of episodes, because it's just been really interesting and something that I've actually been invested in. It's been nice to feel invested in something in Legends of Tomorrow, because I haven't been all season. But basically they go there and she goes there to rescue Constantine from Astra, who, of course, if you don't know who Astra is, she is actually a character from the Constantine TV series, who they've actually managed to retroactively fit into the Arrowverse, which is awesome. So they're trying to save Constantine from Astra, and then ultimately trying to save Ray, of course, from getting him out of Hell so he can come out of Neurons body. And I liked all this stuff. I really liked, being in Hell, seeing all these different characters, the way the world works. Like, it's this really dark, dingy, criminal underworld kind of thing in Hell, and seeing Constantine there, kind of in his element, I think is really awesome. And again, it just felt nice to actually feel invested in a particular storyline, because I haven't had that for quite some time with this show within this season. So Neuron is ultimately trying to spread fear so he can open up a portal and let all of the monsters from Hell essentially come out onto Earth. And that's his big kind of evil plan. It's a bit of an underwhelming plan, given the fact that Neuron has kind of been, in the background of this entire season. I was kind of expecting to make it a bit bigger than that, but whatever, it's okay. What I have to say, though, about Neuron is I actually think it was a very smart idea to have him take over Ray's body in the past few episodes, to have, like, Brandon Routh essentially play the villain. I think it was really cool, because I think Brandon Routh really got to have some fun with this and play around with it, and I really enjoyed it as well, because even though I actually really like the actor and the concept of using, Constantine's ex-lover of Desmond in the role, I actually think it worked out better. And even though I would have been fine if they would have stuck with the Desmond thing, I think it was actually better to make essentially Ray the villain of the season. I think that was actually a really cool idea, and again, I think Brandon Routh did a really good job of selling it. Now, at the end of the last episode, Zari gave her younger self the dragon egg that her and Nate have been looking after the past couple episodes, and it kind of gets into trouble when it actually hatches while in young Zari's possession, and it actually goes out there. But this is when they realize that they actually need to come up with a different plan here, because while Zari was typically bullied when she was in school, when she has this baby pet dragon, she's actually realized that, people actually really like her now because she has all these different things. And this is when the Legends kind of realize that, people aren't actually scared of these monsters if they're actually shown the good side of them, and they're not told to fear them. If they're told that they are just, other creatures just like us, then they won't, they're not going to be fearful of them. And this is where their plan ultimately comes from. So Nate uses the idea of actually bringing Hey World to life, which was the kind of theme park that his dad was coming up with that was going to be filled with magical creatures, and he basically comes up with the idea that, hey, we could put all these different creatures into Hey World and invite the world to come in, and we can show them the good side, and people will no longer fear magical creatures. And it's a decent idea, but they need something to sell it, so what do? Well, they dress up as the DC TV Trinity, which is, of course, Green Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl. We have Sarah dressed up as Supergirl, we have Nate as Green Arrow, and we have Gary as the Flash. I have to say, obviously this doesn't really do much. It's basically just done for like one scene as a kind of throwaway joke, as a lot of things are on Legends these days. But it was cool to see that, like, Sarah looked very good in the Supergirl suit, Nate looked great in the Green Arrow suit, and while Gary definitely did not fit into that Flash costume, I have to give Gary props for actually having a good sense of style, because he chose the best Flash costume, which was the Season 4 one. He didn't go for the most recent Season 5 one, he went for the Season 4 one. Good on you, Gary. You have a good sense of style. I will give you that. I don't give you much, but I will give you that. So this now culminates into the big kind of finale, and Zari is stuck on the ship because she can't be involved in the situation, because after they kind of change everything and they change history, it actually turns out that the metahuman, anti-metahuman law from her future will actually no longer go into position, because people aren't actually afraid of monsters anymore and thus aren't afraid of metahumans. So that won't happen, which means her family never died, her brother never died, so she can't actually be in the situation. So she's kind of sidelined. But what eventually happens is Ray is saved by Constantine and Nora and is essentially brought back to life in his own body. But in order to do this, they had to sacrifice Nate. And Nate actually, in order to save Ray, sacrifices his own life, which was incredibly bold, and I didn't expect that, actually. I didn't expect Nate to die in this episode. Now, obviously, Nate doesn't actually die. We do see him come back to life by the end of the episode, but it was really interesting to actually see Nate willing to make that decision for Ray, and actually to have that much love, for Ray to be able to do that was actually really interesting. And also the fact that Ray completely, flipped back on himself by the time he came around and he realized what Nate did. You really got to see their, their bromance and their friendship, which I really like. Their friendship is really sweet in this show, so seeing them like that was really cool. But in order to bring Nate back to life, they use a musical number to do it. This episode was actually okay. This episode was doing alright, but then as soon as the musical number came in, I really could have done without this. I really could have done without this. I said this back in my review for episode 12 or 13, whatever it was, when we had that Bollywood musical number. It's not necessary. It completely ruined the scene, especially because before this scene where Nate comes back to life, you actually have a really good scene between Nate and his father, which I really liked and I actually found quite emotional. And then they follow it up with this, and it's so ridiculous, and again, I just don't like it. They could have completely done without this, and this episode actually would have been alright, because this isn't one of the worst episodes of this season. This is actually one of the better episodes of the season, and I actually, I didn't hate this one, as I have hated some of the other episodes of the season, but that musical number, I really could have done without it. It wasn't necessary, and I just feel like it was there because they've just really enjoyed doing musical numbers this season for whatever reason. Also, the Monitor is in the crowd. This was quite a funny cameo. This isn't necessarily a crisis tease, but we do see the Monitor in the crowd, and he's basically there with the Book of Destiny and also a bag of popcorn, and he basically sits there shaking his head when he sees the legends. That was pretty funny. Obviously, the Monitor is going around trying to find all these heroes to fight against the crisis that is coming, and he's just realizing that the legends are just a complete load of idiots. So I did find that quite amusing, actually. The fact that even the Monitor is like, yeah, you guys are just useless. Even though we do know the legends are going to be a part of Crisis, I do find it quite funny that even the Monitor does not approve. So eventually, after they save the day and everything goes right, we do see a couple of changes made, one of which is Zari's future, which, like I say, Zari actually gets removed from the team. I'm not 100% clear what's going on with Zari next season, because we know Zari is in next season. That's confirmed. Tala Ash has said that. She said she's in next season. But what happens is because Zari never went on the journey, she never went on the adventure where, the anti-metahuman law was put into place, so she never went on that journey. She never met the legend, so she never ended up on the team. And we actually have Zari's brother on the team now. Nate is hugging Zari, and then after the timeline changes, he's actually hugging her brother. So we have Zari's brother on the team now. Interesting, it's weird, and obviously because this is a different timeline now where basically Zari's brother has been on the team for as long as Zari was, the team and him are acting like, he's always been on the team. So it's a bit of a strange dynamic, and I feel like if they have Zari's brother on the team next season full time, that's going to be a weird transition because, like I say, there's been no setup. And again, it makes sense in terms of the time travel logic, but just from a basic TV, perspective was not knowing this character, it doesn't work. And like I say, because Zari is in next season, I feel like that's not going to stick. But it's interesting. I might do a separate video on this as well, just because it's a pretty interesting topic. But yeah, that was one of the teams. So Zari is gone for now, but don't expect for her to be gone for too long. And we do get some Season 5 setup, and I have to say this got me very excited. We see Astra go to that, trade-in place in Hell, and she actually gets the coins, the soul coins, for a bunch of different people throughout history. This includes Mary Tudor, we also saw Charles Manson, Rasputin, some really bad people throughout history is now in the hands of Astra, who she can bring back to life at any time. So this is our setup for Season 5. So, it seems like Season 5 is going to be about the legends having to fight, some of the most evil people throughout history who have come back to life. This is fantastic setup. I love this. Obviously, I've not been hot on Legends this season at all. I've hated it at times, but this is really going back to what Legends was all about, and I'm really excited about that. And also what the comments from Phil Klemmer, who is the showrunner of Legends of Tomorrow, he is saying that Season 5 is really going back to kind of the roots of Legends of Tomorrow, which sounds very good to me. And if this is our story, where we have like Astra essentially acting as our big bad, and then we have all of these, villains from throughout history as being our villains of the week, that is fantastic, and that gets me very excited for Season 5. I do wonder if Constantine's going to still be involved, given the fact that Constantine, I don't know if he's going to be around next season. Like, he leaves with the team at the end of the episode, so it seems like he's still on the team. And if Astra is going to be involved next season, you'd have to think Constantine would want to be there, because Constantine and Astra have that connection. But either way, this is great setup, and I'm really happy they put this in there, because this actually gets me excited for Legends Season 5 already, and I didn't think that was going to be possible until I started seeing any footage, but they've done it. Overall, this wasn't a dreadful episode of Legends. Like I say, for the season finale, I think it was alright. The musical number really let it down. I think without that, this would have actually fared a lot better for me. But that musical number really let it down. But I did get some really cool stuff in there. Like I say, I did enjoy all the stuff with Nora and Constantine in Hell, saving Ray. And also we got a Vandal Savage cameo. That was completely random. I completely forgot to mention that. Vandal Savage returns in this episode, who was the main villain of Season 1. Completely random. And even though no one liked that villain, it was quite nice to see him again. I won't lie. Interesting cameo, interesting choice. I think it would have been better maybe if they would have gone for someone like Damien Dark, but either way, it was still cool to see him there. But yeah, this episode ended on a strong, I think it did. I think it ended on a way where we can actually get excited for Season 5, and that's the biggest thing I take away from this, honestly, is that little tease at the end for what we might get in Season 5, and if that is our story, well, consider me bang up for it. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for the latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said, guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.